not long into 2013, we started hearing some noise that Heartland Park was in trouble, that the existing owner was having some financial challenges, and that they were looking at bankruptcy, foreclosure, the same scenario that we were. And at that point, the city got more actively involved in that. So we started working with various entities to try to identify a solution through that time. And going up to July or June 17th of this year, we continued to look at what the possible outcomes were, and through that became the negotiated agreement primarily between the Kansas Department of Commerce and the city. The impacted parties were those people who were owed money. That would be Ray Irwin from Jayhawk Racing, Core First, and then a list of people going down from there. The deal that was structured was that the city would extend additional debt, $5 million. In exchange for that, the Star Bond District would be expanded significantly, and based on that trade-off, the city's debt was going to increase, but also so was, in a very substantial way, the revenue streams available through the district, so that not only were we now able to pay the original debt that we had no chance of paying under the existing deal, but we were able to pay that plus the incremental debt. We went from a situation, as you went out through the end of the deal, that the city was for sure going to lose, unless a miracle happened. We didn't foresee that happening, that we were looking at a scenario where the city was going to be short approximately $8.5 million. And that is if everything stayed exactly the same. But we knew that things weren't going to stay exactly the same. We knew that the owner was probably going to go out of business, and there was a high probability that Heartland Park was going to go dark. That was the second scenario, that instead of only being short the $8.5 million, we were even going to lose the $164,000 a year that was being generated. So that would add an additional couple of $1 million to the debt that the city would be obligated to pay. The deal as it was structured, in exchange for the city selling the additional $5 million worth of debt and the Commerce Department agreeing to expand the Star Bond District boundaries so that the city's debt, both new and old, would be paid, there was an agreement with Jayhawk Racing, or specifically Mr. Irwin's company, that he would agree to sign away all of the legal rights associated with his land. Now that's the critical element, and I think it's the element that we didn't do a very good job explaining. Even though the city owns the land at Heartland Park, there is a legal clause in the contract, and it's called a reversionary interest provision. And because of that reversionary interest provision, Mr. Irwin had the rights, when those bonds were paid off, to take the land back. So the worst case scenario was that we stepped in, another owner stepped in, we made this thing tremendously successful, we paid off all of our debt, and the thing was a tremendous going concern. And the day that we paid off the Star Bond debt, Mr. Irwin had the rights to take that land back under the reversionary interest provision. So you see, we were stuck in a very difficult situation. People have said, why don't you let it go into foreclosure? Why don't you let the bankruptcy happen? Why don't you let the private market go ahead and take care of this thing? Because there were time bombs. There were time bombs that would have kept that thing empty, and it would have made it very difficult to redevelop it going forward. So we looked at a lot of scenarios. And at the end of the day, I guess it would have been the middle of the day standing here today, we made a determination that it was the best interest of the city of Topeka, and I don't mean just this organization, I mean the residents of the city of Topeka and the state of Kansas, to go forward with the expansion of the boundaries, selling the extra debt instruments to raise that additional money, the additional $5 million, and get a clean and clear title on the property so that we wouldn't have to go into the courts for the next couple of years to do it. So that's why we did it. And I feel bad as the CEO of this organization that I didn't do a better job explaining this. And generally speaking, when we have this conversation with people, by the time we get to this point, they say, now I get it. I didn't get it before, and we should have worked harder at this. We have continued to go forward. Council approved in August. Council approved the intent to expand the district and purchase of star bonds. In October, the petition was submitted to cancel the August action and put it up for a public vote. We did file a legal challenge. In November, the judge disallowed that petition. The city has continued to work on the star bonds. We've resumed work on the star bond issue and the RFP. We're currently, where we stand today is we are moving forward with the sale of the bonds. There was action taken last week on December 2nd that council approved the issuance of the new star bonds. This Friday is the deadline for the RFPs to come into place, and we have a February 1 deadline that this deal needs to be done or it goes away. So, we'll be happy to answer any questions about that, but we know that people have struggled with the decisions that the city made. But I can say with a high level of confidence, it was the right and only decision that the city could make. Because had we decided to just go ahead and allow a vote to occur, I have a high level of confidence that we would have been sued by the other side, and we would have been trading good legal facts for bad legal facts. And when you're in a court case, you'd rather have the good legal facts on your side. So here's what happens. The city buys out the interest and gets clear title to the Heartland Park property. The city and state expand the Star Bond District that currently encompasses the Heartland Park property. The state's portion of sales tax levied in the new district will be reallocated to the city. To make this very simple, right now, that $1 million, let's just roughly say, the $1 million that the city is obligated to pay is going to come from one source, and it's going to come from City of Topeka residents' property taxes. That means approximately 1 mil. So we'll either have to deliver 1 mil less of services annually, or we'll have to increase the taxes by 1 mil just to stay even with where they're at. So, or under the new deal, we're going to take the state's portion of the sales taxes that are already being collected, 6.3% of those taxes. So that's new money coming into the city. Now, it's not new money being charged to anybody. It's a reallocation of existing funds. And I'll also say in this particular case, these aren't projections that are saying if we do this, these great economic development things will happen and all this new revenue. These are historical revenue collections based on information that we receive from the Department of Revenue. We worked very closely, our financial consultants, our financial team worked very closely with the Department of Commerce, the Department of Revenue, to make sure that we were dealing with real numbers and not pie in the sky numbers. The district expansion allows the city to pay the entire new and the existing debt service over the life of the district. So basically speaking, where we would have been short about $8 million on about $10 million worth of debt, actually $12 million worth of debt, we're going to be breaking even, actually making a little bit, there would be a little bit money left over on $18 million worth of debt. So I understand why people are sensitive to this. But given everything else that was happening, this was the best deal that the city could structure. The plan does not raise any taxes. It does not create any new taxes. Every tax that's going to be collected and allocated to the city is a tax that is being collected this year and has been being collected for the last several years. There's nothing new. It's just a reallocation of the sales, the state portion of the sales tax that the city does not have access to today. And so just to follow up, without the plan, the city faces it's actually an approximately $8.5 million shortfall over the next decade.